This is a beginning point. This is the beginning of the rest of my life. I got the meaning, and I got to write it down, because I don't want to forget it. Just win, baby.
And welcome back to the Gold Jacket Podcast with me, your host, as always, Gymnastic. And with me, Connor Donald. Most of the time, it's usually he's in here every time. I'm the only one who goes. I'm Connor, man. How you been?
I'm doing good, and I just want to point out I've yet to take a vacation, and you already have told me you're booking a vacation in July. Like already having to prepare to be without you.
I am gone away for a week on work-related issues out of the area. Not my fault.
You already know there's going to be issues. Sorry, I'm jumping my intro here. You already know there's going to be issues like work issues.
They're sending me away to a course. I got to go away for 1 week. Not my thing. And the internet's probably better in the hotel I'm probably going to be at. So maybe
might just have to call in just to be there, just to show off your internet. Although this start was fantastic.
One of the best.
So that absolutely, it's all about the guest. And so with that in mind, we will introduce our guest. He is the founder of Nimblue Numbers, co-founder of the FF Millionaires, plus the newest member of the SGP Network team for fantasy and DFS content. This is Scott Simpson. Scott, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Jim. I'm excited to be here tonight to talk some DFS, to talk some, just fantasy football, to talk football. It's good to be here, and I'm excited to chop it up. I know that Jim has been kind of on Twitter. We've been on Twitter for a while, just kind of going back and forth, being friends and kind of being able to establish that relationship. And when you asked me and we were able to find a date, I was like, yes. So you've been on the calendar. And I love the 9 o'clock start that you asked me to, we kind of figured out how to do. Perfect for me. I could cuddle my kids, put the dog down, not feel rushed. And now I'm ready to talk fantasy football. It's like what I do during the 9 o'clock to midnight every night of my life with everybody, or by myself, or, with people on the phone or in Clubhouse or just whatever. Like, that's all I do is I talk fantasy football. So excited to be on your show tonight, guys.
Man, I am pumped. I remember I first got on Twitter. You're one of the first guys that piqued my interest, shooting some fucking funny shit, dropping some informational fucking content. And I'm like, man, who is this guy? And then just started fucking shooting shit with you, got a couple of leagues with you. You're a solid dude. And then, you're on Twitter almost every night, chopping it up on everywhere and making money. So when we thought about the DFS strategy on how to, first guy that I could even think of to ask to come aboard, and very, very, very appreciative that you said yes, and very excited for tonight's show, man.
Yeah, excellent. And I liked, the kind of the ideas that you were sharing too, because we can't assume everybody either knows where we're at in the process of fantasy football or DFS. And it's really good to kind of get to know kind of how to do things and how to approach things and to learn from different people. And I would say 2-3 years ago, I was learning. I didn't know anything about this. I mean, I knew a little bit about DFS, but I really didn't know. And so for me, if I would have heard a podcast where someone could explain something to me, it would have been beneficial for me as a new player to the game. And so I'm excited to share anything I can, pass on. And there's a lot of people who I will kind of quote or reference to that have helped me learn. And I would encourage people to follow them and to learn from them as well, because I'm not the end all of anything DFS related for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't think anybody is the end all be all for anything. And that's why there's so many of us in this community. And like we were saying, we were talking off the air, this community is an awesome community. And like, we'll preface this by saying me and Jim are by no means anywhere near experts of DFS. We probably barely know what the acronym DFS stands for. I mean, I was talking before we came on the air that I was proud to win $100 on a basketball night where there was 2 games, 4 teams to choose from, and you set a lineup of 12 people. So you basically set a quarter of the players for that night. And so it was pretty hard to mess up. And then I see people on Twitter and they're winning big. And True North Nate is in our group winning like $3,000 every Sunday on NASCAR. And I'm like, yeah, I suck at DFS.
Yeah, man. It's different, man, and it's a totally different beast. I'm not very good at it.
I mean, we can't. I guess we
It's
should
fun.
we should probably not assume that everybody knows what we're talking about when we say DFS and say this is daily fantasy sports. This is what you would do on your setting a lineup for one night. What are some of the big names? Monkey Knife Fight, DraftKings was the big one, FanDuel. Those types of sites are where you would do this. So let's start with the simplest question and probably the most boring one of them all, but we got to start somewhere. What is DFS, Scott? Explain to the people who may not know, who may just be getting involved, what it is.
So the way I like to explain it is it's not a degeneration, but like it's a new generation of fantasy sports that you want to play right now, today, and you want to use your analytical skill to analyze this matchup, this one game. It could be a one-game slate, like you said. You had a 2-game NBA slate. You kind of looked at the players and thought, these guys are going to perform well given this context. I'm going to throw a couple of guys up there. Shout out my man Jordan. That's a smart guy right there, Mr. Jordan Vanek over there on Twitter. You know, the math magician himself. And so, depending on kind of where your thinking is and where you're going into it, I think it's people who were like me, who loved fantasy, where you had a season long, but maybe your season long is struggling. You're 4-4, or you're 2-6, and you still want to play. You still care about it every single week. You care about the whole NFL. Well, DFS or any other sport really, but for me, it's NFL I care the most about. DFS gives you a context that you can set your lineup. You can play individual games. You can play slates for the whole Sunday slate or the Monday, Thursday slate or the whatever slate it is. You can kind of pick the matchups that you get to play in. And I love that because it's the daily sweat of it. It's kind of mixed with gambling. I'm not going to lie to you. I like gambling. In Maryland, they have just legalized it. So I have to either drive to West Virginia or Pennsylvania or DC to gamble. And so now Maryland has passed the law. We can gamble. I'm hoping by early September, we're able to get in there and do a little bit of magic on the apps and be able to sports gamble, because I love that. That's what DFS is. You're really looking to see who's going to play well this week right now. And that's what I love about it, is that you can have a bad week and come back the next week and you can make thousands of dollars if you're doing it right. And I'm not by any means doing it right, but there's tricks and things that we can talk about tonight that kind of help you get to a position where you know what you're doing and you're more confident about how you're approaching, because there's so many different games to play in DFS, and you can get lost and caught up in all the things that are there and not really know where to put your money and how to play the best with your money. So
I love it.
That's a very informative answer.
Definitely a good explanation. I really like it. I feel like I bought my lotto ticket for tonight, and I'm feeling like maybe I should have saved that $7 to just throw into some DFS, because I probably have a better chance of succeeding there.
Yeah, and it's fun too, because you can watch the games and root for your guy. And if they do hit, you're going crazy, going, yeah, it's my guy, oh, touchdown, and your kids are like, why are we screaming for this random player I've never seen before? Why is Sammy Watkins' name being bantered about my home? Well, DFS,
So you mean
week 1
or week 17, one or the other.
So you mean it's not as exciting as waiting and praying on 21 numbers and 7 of the numbers to hit is basically what you're saying.
No, and
21 numbers. What are you playing?
Or 7, whatever it is. Goddamn,
50. Yeah, 7 out of 50 though. You got to hit. It's fucking ridiculous.
I was trying to buy some beer for my wife the other day. I was behind a guy in line. He was just like, "Yeah, give me 62.55 with a box around the 5. Give me 44 and a 62. 99. No, give me 44 and 3. Yeah, 6 around the box around the 7." Like, what in the world? I'm like, I just want to buy some beer. Play some DFS instead, because then you can actually say, I think that Calvin Ridley's going to go off this week. Here's $5. I'm going to play. Oh, he goes off, and it feels good because you get to see Calvin Ridley go off and you get some money in your pocket. So
I love it. What would be the first piece of advice that you would give to a new DFS player trying to get out started?
So I think the first thing that you need to do is take a certain amount of money that you have set aside to lose and be accepting of losing that money. Because I think whenever you go into playing any game of money, there's a tendency to chase your money if you lose off the break, or to quit. So I mean, most of the time, if you're not winning, you're either sticking with it and chasing, or you're losing and you're quitting. So I would say play within your means. That's the first thing. So if you have $100 to play with, play $100. If you got $500, play with 500. Whatever you want to use, put that money in, set it aside, count it as lost, and then you want to look at and study kind of the different fields and the different tournaments that are out there. So in DFS, for example, on DraftKings on Sunday, you can play in GPP tournaments, which are guaranteed prize pool tournaments that have for anywhere from hundreds to hundreds of thousands of people in them each week. And so if you're going to go in with your bankroll of $500 and go, I'm going to win the Millie Maker, and I'm going to put in, all my money on the Millie Maker in week one, you're going to probably lose all of your money in week one. So you have to understand your contest, understand what your bankroll is and how to use your contest and apply it to your bankroll. Now, if you have $500 and you go, I'm going to take $20 and every week I'm going to do a 50-50, which is half the people in the tournament lose, half the people win, and you win double your money. So, for example, if there's 100 people in a tournament and you put in $100, half the people, 50, are going to win $200, and then half the people are going to win nothing, right? So you want to be above the 50% line. So that's an easier way to try to build your bankroll when you're trying to build a cash lineup, kind of being consistent and steady, putting that $20 in every week and beating people in those smaller tournaments. And then when you can get your feet wet, maybe you start going into bigger tournaments that are that style. If you want to kind of slow roll, if you're just there to have fun and you want to take that money, that $500, and maybe put in $50 each week in GPPs and the 50-cent tournaments, the 25-cent tournaments, you can put in a bunch of lineups and you're not using that much money. That might be for you, where you put in 100 lineups, you tinker with them all week. Each one costs a dime, it doesn't matter. But if you hit big on that, and I did last year, you can win $5,000, $10,000 is the max out for the tournament that I won. I was 0.6 points away, so less than a point away from $10,000 in first place. I got second place. That was on 25 cents. So that's really taking your money and just quadrupling, I don't know what the world is when you turn 25 cents into or 50 cents. I think it was 50 cents into $5,000. So what are you gonna do?
That's fucking awesome. No, the only ones I win are 50 cents into $1, maybe. That's about it. But yeah, man, that is awesome. Well, I'm just gonna flash this up here because Connor needs to see this real quick.
In there, bro. I would too. Here's the thing that's great is that there's so many people on fantasy Twitter that you could talk to who like DFS, and a lot of people aren't DFS NFLing right now because it's not in season. But when we get closer, there'll be a lot of NFL DFS content. You can find people and talk to people and just ask people like myself, Jordan Vanek, Bo _McBigTime on Twitter. Ask them, okay, I like playing this style. This is what I think I know the most about. And so for me, I know the most about GPPs. That's what I was started with. I actually had to learn how to do the head-to-head tournaments and the smaller ones to earn the money to kind of build your bankroll, because I was just blowing $100 each week doing the 25 cents and not winning for a long time. And so you have to kind of evolve as a player, talk to all the players that are out. We'd love to talk to you and kind of understand what you want to play and what you want to accomplish. And we can give you guidelines. No one's going to tell you like this is the get rich quick strategy in any of these tournaments or any of these games. It's more, here's a way to think and a framework to understand how this works. And then you can use that framework to inform what your plays are each week and who you pick and how you're leveraging your money.
I love it.
I like that, what you said there, because like a lot of people do think it's a get rich quick scheme, right? Like they see the Millie Makers, they see these $5,000, $10,000, and they just try to chase it. So I like it, man. I like it. I love what you've been saying. Play within your means, and it's not a get rich quick scheme, man. So let's.
My wife didn't believe it either. What's funny is when I'm winning, I'm showing her because at first I don't. This is my thing about it too. I'm a purist at heart. I don't want to be looking at my app the whole time I'm watching the red zone or because I don't have a team. I quit the Washington football team in 2014. So I just quit them. I grew up as a Redskins then fan, and I love them in the 80s. They won championships. I saw 3 Super Bowls. It was incredible. It was awesome. And then after Jack Kent Cooke died and Dan Snyder became the owner, it's just been not great. It's been terrible, actually. It's been like the worst of the worst. So I quit when he wouldn't resod his field so that Rascal Flatts could come play concerts there, and RG3 broke his knee as a rookie. I was like, this is just the worst. I cannot be part of this. This is a bad situation. So I quit. So I don't care about a team. I care about football. So I watch the red zone. I watch anybody who's about to score. I love football. I love fantasy. So what I do, though, is I do not have my apps open during the games. I just watch them. Now, what I'll do is I'll check them at halftime of the second set of games. So around 6:30, I'll check the app and see what's up. And so that day, I checked the app, the one I won $5,000. I'm winning $800. And I was like, oh, look at me. Look at me. I was all pumped up. Showed my wife. It went up to 1,000. I was like, look at me. I'm winning $1,000. She's like, that is just not even real. Shut up. I'm like, no, this is real. I was like, this is real money. She's like, it's not real. So when I won the $5,000, I said, this is real money. She goes, it's not even real. She still didn't even believe me when I won. Like I was just making this up. I was like, yeah, DraftKings is this $1 million company that's traded on the stock exchange. And they just put these funny numbers on here to like mess with me. And it's all a ruse. And so then she's like, I won't believe it until it's in my bank account. And I said, okay. So I took it and I put it in the bank account for like half a day. And then I went and bought DraftKings stock with it. So, she saw it. She knew it was real. And then she never got to see any of it because she doubted its truth. So sorry, honey, can't talk shit about my money. And then, you don't, now she's, but also she has every other cent of my money. Like literally I took 50 cents, won $5,000. And then I put $5,000 in the stock market away from her because I don't have anything else. That's all I have. And that money I'm trying to build my nut over there so I can take it out and put it back into DraftKings. I'm trying to put a Ponzi scheme on DraftKings, and I was winning it too. DraftKings was up to $70. I was up $1,000 on DraftKings. I was about to cash that out, and then it just dropped, and then I lost it all. So it's even. I'm even on DraftKings, but I'm not up what I was. Hopefully, when the NFL season comes, people just start getting DraftKings fever. They start foaming at the mouth for DraftKings because here's the thing. They all, as we're saying, you're telling them not to foam at the mouth. People do. They're like, I'm going to win $1 million today. I'm going to do it, and then you're not going to do it. You're just not. There's 17 or 18 people that you're going to win $1 million, and you're not one of them. Now, if I would have put my lineup in that 50-cent GPP in the Millie Maker, I would have won by 7 points. So it is possible. It's possible. But man, does Bo remind me of how much I could have won and did not win every time. So
it feels a lot like when you're playing like one of the machines and you're up like couple $100 and you're like just a few more spins and you max bet it and you just go down, and then suddenly you're at like the $20 you started with and you're like, well, I might as well gamble the rest, and you go up and you go down. It's just like a roller coaster, and that's exactly what DFS is, especially the people who, the few times I've played, I actually was one of those guys who stared at it or watched it really close, and I'm like, this is like nauseating. This makes me sick to my stomach watching me go from the $80 up to being the guy with nothing and being like 1,500th place out of 4,000 people. It's just the worst.
It is
you check that early on the early games and like you're rolling, and then you realize everybody took the late games, and then they catch up to you and they go right past you.
Yeah, you see you got like 60 minutes left, so you got like one guy left to play, and everybody's like they got one guy who played and put up like half your amount of points, and you're like, shit, they still got like 300 minutes to go. This isn't going to be pretty.
Yeah.
No, I was winning the Millie Maker 1 week, like week 3 or something, at halftime of the first game. You know what I mean? So like around like 2:45, 3 o'clock, I was, and I screen grabbed it as a joke, ha ha ha. But I had, like you said, all my players were going, and so that's why I stopped looking. Like, because you're getting false positives. Like the Earth's not done shaking yet. Let the ground settle. Let the scores settle. and then you'll figure it out what you need and compared to everybody. So if I have a sweat, I'll find out at 6:30. That way, all the rest of the games, I'm not going, damn it, no, oh, damn it. I don't want to do that. I just want to enjoy football and watch grown ass men knock the snot bubbles out of each other. So, yeah, I know.
Love it.
So I'm learning everything I know from you. And so I'm telling them what you told me, and that's that, to trust yourself. So that's what I'm doing.
I love it. We'll move into the next question here. So if you're new to the fantasy community, would DFS be a good place to start for someone as opposed to a season long or a dynasty? And I know we had a couple guys on, we did our how to best ball, and there's a lot of, people who are like, oh, best ball's the way to go. Best ball is a good place to start, go cheap. But couldn't you do the same with DFS, but you're doing it on like a daily basis? Like if you spend a full year doing DFS, and each week just putting a little bit of money in and learning the game of fantasy, wouldn't that be a really effective measure to get you into like dynasty or season long down the road?
Yeah, I think it all works together because the way that I did it is I started doing first, it was redraft. That's the first thing I ever did, redraft. And then it went DFS, then it went dynasty, best ball kind of came in at the same time. And then it went like heavy DFS. And so how you get there, it doesn't matter as much. I would say the DFS community is a good place, but I think the redraft and the dynasty communities are probably a little bit better places. Not against the DFS community, but there is more. It's more about money. It's more about winning week to week. It's more about the humble brags. It's more not that you can't, like, here's the thing. When I won, everybody in the DFS community that's my friend is just like, awesome, great job, boom, boom, boom. Whenever anybody wins, whenever I see anybody win, you're always pumping them and encouraging them, and you're very happy for them. You want people to win. You're not jealous. You know how hard it is to win, and you're like, man, that's awesome. Look how close that guy is. That's a great lineup. And so you respect the hustle, the work that got put in, and how they picked it because you respect the game and you saw what happened too, and you wish you would have done it. So it's a respect thing, but at the same time, you have to kind of for DFS, you have to make friends with people who are DFS, like yourself. So Bo and Jordan are like people that I've found as my friend. I've sought them out because they're kindreds, because they're nerds like me, and because when I talk to all the other people, they just don't care about it as much as these guys do. For me, you know what I mean? Like these guys live what I live. They're making spreadsheets, they're writing about it, they're talking about it, they're doing podcasts. So they're just the most in it for me. And not that everybody isn't that way, but it's not as big a part of the fantasy community as Dynasty and Redraft are. So I would say those are just bigger communities for sure. But if you come to Nimble W Numbers and our crew, we'll welcome you in, man. We love everybody. I mean, I think, Jim knows that, kind of, that we're a very, inclusive, bringing everybody inside the tent. We love everybody. So.
It's true. The Dynasty and season-long community can be, I'll use the term aggressive as a slight word for what can happen sometimes in the community. It definitely can be. I get it, because everybody wants, their player to hit. They want their guy to hit. Whereas in the DFS community, it's like what you said. You see a guy win $10,000 and you're sitting there, you're like, that's fucking awesome. And whereas in the dynasty community, you sit there and you watch a guy win this high stakes league and take home 10 grand, and you're like, well, fuck, I wanted that to be me. Why isn't that me? It was like, why did it's all Saquon's fault. He tore his ACL. That was my pride and joy right there. That type of stuff within this community, because you work all off season to find these names and these people, and you're like, okay, I got the team. I know I got the team. Look at these sleepers. And then you're getting sniped literally picks before, and you're like, well, fuck, my whole season's going to shit. And you get all upset. I feel like it's a bit of a hyper aggressive community from time to time.
Well, I love your point. That's a great point. And I'll counterbalance it by saying the thing about DFS is that you might have your guys that you play more so than other guys that you like. Like last year, I really liked Justin Jefferson. I played him a little more than everybody else did. I also, like Derrick Henry, which a lot of people did. There's people that, liked him too, but you change week to week. You change matchup to matchup. You're not as married to guys, so your takes aren't as, like you don't have to plant your flag each year. Like, I'm a JT guy. Well, I'm a CEH guy. You know, like, for me, like, I'll be both of those guys this week in a little double up tournament. I'm playing against Bo, but F them next week. I don't need them. I don't care. I'm not. I'm living. So like DFS, honestly, is like. I don't know, is the polyamorous relationship. I just love everybody. Like, I'm just over here, like, hey, can I grab some of that? Okay, I'm gonna get some of you. Okay, you're doing good. Love you. Okay, I love you. And then I don't know what happens if I win. I'm just like, oh, look at this, I won. If I lose, I'm just like, yeah, look, I got to have fun. So all the other people are over there, like, this is my territory over here. You can't come over. I already like JT. I'm the JT guy in the community. You can't come in. You're second. That's JT too. Everybody has JT over here. You know, that's the kind of stuff you get, which I'm not in DFS. People don't care. That's more, you're also more individual. Like for me, I won that money. No one else did. It wasn't like we all put the same lineup in, you know, and so that individualism is there in DFS. You kind of have to work to find the individuals that you want to talk to and be a part of. So it's a little bit different of a community. We don't tout our players as much as we tout ourselves. So, but I don't tout myself. I let other people do it, and no one does it, and it's perfect. So
I like that. You know what? I like that the way you said that all and stuff, because like I'm in one league. I guess it's a home league, so I guess it's kind of makes sense that it be like this. But I like to talk strategy. You know, I like to talk about players, and some of these guys are like, well, why the fuck are you talking to me about that stuff? I don't want to talk about that stuff. You're just giving your strategy away. And I'm like, man, I just like to talk football. If I win, I win. At the end of the day, me telling you what my strategy is or me talking about this is not going to make or break me winning the $500 or not winning the $500. But I also think that feeling of community in DFS really helps when, you know, you could have between like 2 people and 1,000 people winning money. You could, when there's 1,000 people winning money, you really come together and you're like, I won $2. Hey, I won $20 and stuff. And it's like, and then the guy at the top, you're like, look at that dude there. He won $1,000. That's fucking awesome. Like, yeah, I feel like there's more community when there's more money to win, whereas everybody else is fighting over one pot. Sometimes maybe if you give division winners something, whatever, they get, you know, their money back, and you're like, cool, I get to live for another year. Like,
here's what I want to know. In season long and dynasty, I noticed there's a lot of echo chambering. Do you find that in DFS? Like beginning of the week, there's not too much hype, and then, you know, by Sunday, a guy's got like 80% ownership. Does that happen a lot? Or
I wouldn't say 80% ownership unless there's like just some like massive injury, late scratch or something where, you know, you just have so much value that people can't get away from it. And then most of the time people are avoiding it if it's a GPP. Maybe for cash and other tournaments are going to stick with that player because it's a guaranteed volume play. But I would say what often happens is that the matchups come out, the prices come out, and then people start talking about maybe some of the same plays. And so you do get an echo chamber just in general because people look at the matchups and are like, oh, look at Julio Jones this week. He's got a great matchup, bad cornerback. You know, this game's going to shoot. It's a big high total on the board. And then a lot of people rush to Julio Jones and they come to the same conclusion. And I might come to it too. And then Julio Jones misses. And Hayden Hurst gets 2 touchdowns that game. And it's random, however it works. And so then someone else goes off. You know, DJ Shark goes off for 2 touchdowns and 130 that game. So him at 5,800 was a better play than Julio, who only got, you know, 89 yards and 7 catches. So, you know, he's working at 15 points, which is fine, but not at 7,100, which you needed him to kind of get that 25 points to get you the win. So it's really all just about chasing that value in game, and it's hard to do, and that's why it's not as easy. It's easy to talk about it. I think that's the one thing that happens is people get nonchalant and they over like, oh yeah, of course I'm playing Julio, of course, yeah, why wouldn't I? And you kind of do go with the main idea a lot of times instead of thinking about other matchups that are maybe more advantageous. So I would say that the echo chamber is maybe the community itself listening to the sharps and then just going with what the sharps say. And, you know, I'm not a sharp, but Bo is a sharp. And I like that a lot of times when Bo is sharpening his sword, he's not just saying the same things that everybody else is saying. He's looking a little bit deeper into the matchup. So I think that's what you're kind of trying to avoid each week is if everyone's going to be on a play, that play is not a good play. Just like in redraft, if you're trying to, or dynasty, if you're trying to draft a player and their value is inflated, and you're getting Deontay Johnson in the 5th round, guess what? That's not a value anymore. Deontay Johnson last year in the 8th and the 9th round, where I was getting him, where you guys were getting, that was a value. That was a great play. Getting Deontay Johnson in the 5th round is right where his value is, probably at the top. So that's not a great play. And that's what you're trying to do in DFS. You're trying to avoid the standard play, what everybody makes, trying to make a great play, just like you are in redraft, trying to make a great value pick for the whole season. So the whole season, it's harder to do in fantasy, honestly, than to pick a matchup in a game sometimes. And that's what I like, is the game within the game. And it's the sweat too. Connor, you talked about it. You might be losing in your fantasy league at home, and you're just like, oh, F this league. Go play a little Sunday slate and make $500, make $100, make $50. Who cares? It's fun.
Make back what I just paid in to get into that league and be like, I just got my money for next season. I got my buy-in.
Yeah, my mom's like, she kept saying, where's all this money you're putting in these little dynasty leagues? You're doing $20 here, $15 here, $50. I won the $5,000. I was just like, hey, honey, I love you to death. No more. And I'm not paying you back either. I'm not paying you back. Stop with the payback talk. When you go out to get your hair done, I'm like, when you paying that back? When you putting that back? That much you're going to go back and budget, right? You know what I mean? Like, get out of here. Come on. I have also I'll say this, as a man, I didn't spend any money for years. I bought a 70-inch flat screen from Costco for like $600 or something. And the most expensive thing I've ever purchased besides my MacBook, which I purchased last year. I didn't spend money for my whole life. I'm just a miser I knew God was going to bless me with a beautiful wife. So I saved money before I got married, before I even had a girlfriend. I had a bunch of money saved for her and for my children. And then I had 2 girls, and I have a female golden retriever puppy. So guess what? My money is literally lit on fire every day. And so I've never lit it on fire. So I'm just, DFS and stuff, it's a great way, or redraft is a great way for me to light some of my money on fire. And if some of it doesn't burn and it like multiplies, like the Lord blesses it or whatever, and like makes it like beats the 5,000, like I'm down, so.
Love it. I absolutely love it. But it is so true. A lot of the stuff that you say and a lot of that stuff. I can't believe you brought up Julio Jones. Like, literally a man stuck in a vicious tug of war in the dynasty community right now, and you throw that name out there. How dare you?
We love him. We love Julio.
I do too.
I love him. I love him too. So don't get me wrong. I'm that guy saying that his stock went up, and everyone's like, "How can you fucking put his stock up right now?" Like it's like, man, listen, whatever. You don't draft him. You don't draft him. You leave him out there. You take your AJ Brown at wide receiver 3, and I'll take my Julio at wide receiver 45 here, or wherever he's going right now, and we'll see who gets a better value at the end of this. But next question. We've heard of stacking in fantasy mostly from a best ball perspective. Quickly define that stacking, like the quarterback, the wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, something of the sort like that. Is it an important part of DFS, and is it more important in DFS than traditional dynasty or season long leagues, do you think?
Yeah, I think stacking is different. And I think what we've learned the last couple of years, it's important to understand how to get value out of games. And so it's not just picking like 1 or 2 players, like I like this player, he's going to go off, but what's going to happen in a game? If you can pick the highest scoring game of the slate and have a run back option, there's something called game stacking, where you will stack, let's say I stack Baker Mayfield with Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry on one side. And on the other side, let's say they're playing the Chiefs, I might run it back with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Let's say, because I think that these are the 5 people in this game, and you've only have 9 players to play with, but you can put those in a GPP, particularly the smaller stacks, in the late window slates. You can put those little stacks. Those game stacks are expecting. Oh, I didn't. Oh, you guys only circled for a second there. The game stacks are kind of focusing on that matchup and it going off, thinking that there's going to be a run back. So, Baker Mayfield's going to have to score and have to throw the football because Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are going off during this game. And so you're playing that back and forth in the game, hoping to run the score up. And then there's also games that you think, a quarterback's just going to go off. So you do a skinny stack where you just stack a wide receiver with 1, or a quarterback with 1 wide receiver, or quarterback with 1 tight end, or a quarterback with 1 running back. Those are the skinny stacks. So you only do a little bit of stacking. So I think there's a variety of ways to use it and ways to apply it. The game stack, though, surprisingly has become very effective for winning tournaments because those games that go off, most of the people who have players in those games are going to win because those players score the most points. So you're chasing that game that's popping off each week.
I like that. So you're telling me if Dallas and Atlanta were to meet, that would be a good game to stack because it's two atrocities of defenses and two high-powered offenses going at it. You kind of read for those types of matchups where either the defenses suck or the offenses just overwhelm the other defense, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I used last year was positional ranking. So if you'd study and see, okay, so for tight ends, let's say that there was a matchup last year like the Jets. Let's say they're ranked 31st against tight ends, giving up the 31st most points to tight ends, and then Darren Waller comes to town. So that kind of information, the game he scored 3 touchdowns, he scored like 40 plus points in DraftKings. I think he was the high scorer of the week. Well, that you couldn't just see that coming completely, but my man Jordan Vanek did. He valued him very heavily that week because in his model he could see that tight end one potential with the defense was so terrible. Also mixed with an offense that targeted the tight end a lot as their wide receiver one at times. He said this is a matchup to exploit. So I think what DFS really does come together with is the understanding of everything about what's happening with the players, the offense, the scheme, and the game, and what might happen in that game, and putting it all together to choose the maximum value. And so that's really fun and cool when you're being able to kind of pick a game. It's almost like picking a racehorse. You're betting on individuals that day, like a stock market type thing, that these people are going to go up in value, they're going to hit, and they're going to win money. So I love it. It's very addicting. Even just to win 50 cents, it's fun. I like it.
So I just wanted to ask because you're not committed in a full season. Do you find in DFS it is more important to be really on that scouting injury reports prior to game time?
Oh, yeah.
And then is there a special app that you like that you find gives you that edge on the early notifications than everybody else?
That's something I do need to find. Right now, it's just Twitter. I'm just on Twitter all the time. And so I'll have Twitter up on my computer on Sunday. And honestly, this is how I did it last year. Come Friday night, I would have shows on the Twitters and do this on podcast Friday night. I'd stay up, I'd sleep in the basement downstairs, wake up, do fancy stuff on Saturday, do podcasts, sleep in the basement, wake up, do fancy stuff on Sunday morning. So every weekend, that was kind of what I did, mixed in with family stuff here and there. But the sleeping in the basement, I was so plugged into Twitter and the news, and I had alerts on for all the different, Stephania Bell and everybody who reports on injuries in the NFL. I would just be able to get the news from Twitter instantly. And so that's what I would do. And then I would go in and change my DraftKings teams. But oftentimes I'd be on those players a lot. I would be on them. I wouldn't heavily invest in a player who was on the injury report, who might not go, who might be on that scratch list. Now, every once in a while they sneak up on you and you can't do anything about it, and they might get you. But I try to really do scout pre the night before. I want to know all week if that player is not practicing. I have this little thing I do every day where I have certain players, I check the practice reports for them every single day, because in DFS, if there's particularly in running back, there's opportunities for low value running or high value running backs, low cost running backs who are filling in because the prices get set earlier in the week for players who are going to be out that week. So that's what I do like looking for and finding those values and then using that to just exploit and add other values to my lineups.
Ooh, I like that. See, I didn't know that either, that like the backup running back place was like set regardless if like CAH went down, that the number 2s isn't jumping with that information. That's really, really valuable actually.
No, and because of that though, and this is what's interesting, DraftKings last year overpriced Alexander Madison all year just because they thought if Dalvin Cook got hurt, then he would be valuable. So his price was just too high all the time. I mean, he never played anyway. You weren't going to get him anyway, but he was just that was one of them where they kind of baked it in. But it was nice to catch a running back who didn't practice and their price was set on Tuesday, and they didn't practice, or maybe it was set Wednesday, and they didn't practice Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. They're like, nah, they're not going to go, and then. But then also, oftentimes, and this is what percentages comes in, ownership comes in, people might flood the market on that player, and so sometimes it might not be a great play once it hits a certain overvalue by the community, and you've got this guy going at 30-40% ownership. Well, you lose your edge then everybody has that, and now unless it's a smash play, you got to be careful. So it is not just injury equals same production, but what oftentimes I've noticed is injury equals production presented in a different format to the players that are already on the team. So a back goes down or a wide receiver goes down, don't just put in their replacement, put in the players around them, value them more. Think about what they can add more now, because they're going to be the ones kind of picking up the lion's share of that, kind of the focus of that offense now. Because in the game plan, you can't adjust that much if a player goes out. You have to pick the players that are there. They're not just going to go, okay, well, this guy's never been here. He never practices. Let's throw him the ball 8 times today. He's going to be great. He's good. He's going to, right? What's your name, Rodrigo? It's Rodrigo. Right? No, it's not. No, it's not Rodrigo. Sorry. I thought this guy was Rodrigo. Never mind.
I like that.
Quick little follow-up on there. What is the percentage of rostership gets to where you will fade a guy? What's too much for you?
So I think it's a combined ownership total. And so I don't even know what it is off the break. Bo's going to chastise me for not knowing, but I don't want any player, if I'm doing a GPP tournament, I don't want to have the chalk, and I don't want to. The chalk means is kind of where everybody is putting their eggs, and so I don't want to have a lineup that has. Let's say that most of the people are valuing last year Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs 1 week as the 2 most owned running backs. Well, if I put both of those guys in my lineup and 50% of the field is playing both those guys, then I've already made myself the same as half the people who are playing in this GPP. That's not how I'm going to win the GPP. Now, I might need Derrick Henry to go off, or I might need Josh Jacobs to go off. I might need one of them. Okay, that's fine. But I'm not going to load up on all of the chalk in my GPP. Now, if I'm doing a 50-50 or a head-to-head, I don't care. I don't care about ownership at all. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not adjusting. I'm picking the very best players for my max money at the time, and I'm not looking at ownership at all. So ownership is more involved in those GPP tournaments that you're going to be in than it is the cash games. Because the cash games, you just have to beat one person head-to-head, or you just have to beat a field that you choose. And the ownership, I mean, if you have Derrick Henry and someone else does and they suck too, that's okay. Most of the field's going to suck on Derrick Henry, so it's not going to be the end of the world in that.
I like that. That's awesome. Can you briefly discuss some strategies that go with DFS? I mean, in season long and dynasty, we talk zero RB, we talk robust RB. How does one strategize for DFS?
That's a really good question. I think one thing I've been learning more about, and this is mostly from studying what happened last year positionally when it came to top 10 finishes, top 5 finishes, who finished the number one, was it wide receiver each week as the top scorer? Was it a running back? And what Jordan Vanek, his studies and his data has kind of shown, and I kind of came to some of the same conclusions, but not as clearly as he did. I love his work, was that at the end of the season, there was a few running backs who were scoring in the top 10, whereas a lot of wide receivers were scoring 15, 20 points in DraftKings. Not as many running backs were. Whereas in the beginning of the season, more running backs were getting you those higher totals. So not that it's going to be the same each year, but if you can kind of see the trends going, that right now it's the running backs are wearing down, the offenses are wearing down, they're passing the ball more. More people are valuing. If you can value more wide receivers and put another extra wide receiver in your flex instead of a running back, you're going to have a better average score than everybody else, because the running backs are harder to hit on right now. There's more fluctuation in them. So that was a cool thing that I saw happening. But at the same time, I was playing Derrick Henry last year at the end of the season where he was having monster games. I was playing JT. He was having monster games. So it was kind of like pick a few monster running backs and then fill up on wide receivers. And that's what we were doing. And so it's cool to kind of now go step back and go, oh, wow, that's a good thing to see for next year, and to kind of watch each week as it progresses from the macro to the micro. That's what you have to look at kind of when you're not in the season, when you're out of the season.
So I'm actually I have a follow-up to that one. What do you think, because we've asked it to some other people and we've talked about it at length, what do you feel the impact of an additional game will be on DFS, especially? I think we all agree the running back position is going to be the one that gets the one that we're going to have the most doubt in, the one that we're going to be like, if they're blowing them out of the water, will Derrick Henry be on the field in the fourth quarter? Like, how much do you think the 17th game will impact DFS?
I do think it will. I think it'll make it so that you're looking at more of a timeshare with everybody, because you're looking at the long haul. And if you're in the playoffs and you're a team, so for example, say the Titans, they got Derrick Henry, they got Julio Jones, you've got AJ Brown. Well, except for Derrick Henry, Julio Jones and AJ Brown, missed some time last year with injuries, and so 17 games, you can get 34 games out of both those guys with no injuries. Like, good luck. Like, I hope so. I love them both. I'm going to draft them both, but I think you need to have that mentality of preserving your players. And so I do think it will impact running backs. I think you'll see more running backs get more touches, and it will not be, I mean, the league's already been trending towards more committees. So they'll have the Derrick Henrys, but Derrick Henry's not going to get 371 touches, I don't think, or carries. That's not what's going to happen this year, I think, because they want him for the playoffs. Why are you going to, run him out in the regular season, crush him in the regular season, that long slog of, 4 months, of maybe 4.5 months now. So yeah, I do like it. I also think it's going to have more variance for the wide receivers, and the wide receivers are going to be not harder to pick. I think it'll be easier to pick. I think you'll see the teams will be a little easier to pick which wide receivers on the team. So I'm excited about it a lot, and I have some wide receivers this year I can't wait to play in DFS.
So you should really watch matchups, especially in the circumstance where if it's going to be a complete blowout, maybe don't carry that team's running back as much as you may want to. Like, I think of Jonathan Taylor, for example. That seems like the perfect example of a situation where you got Naheem Hines, you got Marlon Mack, and you got Jordan Wilkins. We won't get into the specifics of, I doubt all four are on the roster, but like, wouldn't that be a circumstance where you're kind of sitting there and you're like, maybe JT isn't the play because they're playing who's some garbage ass team, or whatever, some really bad team.
Eagles. Oh,
the Eagles. Okay, we could call the Eagles. So they're probably going to be up a couple scores at halftime, and Jonathan Taylor might not see the field. Like, those types of situations you think will more often happen, and you'll have to maybe look at the value play sometimes more.
Yeah, I like that. I do think you're right about that. Very much so.
all right. So you've mentioned a couple guys throughout this show, giving credit where credit is due. Just wanted to ask you, when you were starting out, who were some of the people that you relied on for content and gave you the push to start putting out your own content?
Oh man, I got to say that the people that I watched and loved and liked also consumed my content, which was really cool, and it was very encouraging in the beginning. Particularly Pete Davidson, Rotobahn. He does awesome DFS work. He has a podcast where he just breaks down the slate, just talks about it, just himself talking about every game on the slate each week. I love it. It was something I would listen to every single week. I'm also big into Sal Vetri. I knew him from working over at Osmo. He does his own stuff as well as his own content. And the guys over at Osmo, Dave Lofgren, Matt Kajeski, Alex Baker. We had on Dave Lofgren on Chalk Block last Friday, and every Sunday, live before lock, I'm just listening, and then they're just talking about ownership and where people are at. So sometimes I fade them, but it's just good to know what's happening in the industry. And so those are some of the people that I've always listened to. And then, always like Pete Oberzet is just a great content machine, always doing crazy fun bits. He's hilarious. And I actually started getting more into DFS as I watched him lose all his money, which was great because then he won a bunch of money. But the year I was watching, he took $1,000, and I think he turned it into because each week he did $100 in the SPY. And I think he turned $1,000 into like $300 at the end of the year, which it's not what you want to do. So, but it was great content from Pete. And that was something that I really enjoyed and kind of got me into seeing the fun side of DFS. So those are just some of the guys I started with. And then Bo McBigtime, my guy who works for me at Nimble W Numbers, he took so much money from me in DFS last year. I love him. He's awesome. And then Jordan Vanek as well. He is those are two of the guys that I really do get down with their DFS takes. And I learn a lot from every week, just talking to them. Like, surround yourself with people in the industry that you want to learn from, that get better by you getting better by talking to them and interacting with them. And those are guys mixing it up with them and interacting with them that I get to sharpen my DFS sword. And so those are people I would encourage you to talk to, just not too much, because I'm trying to talk to them, so don't get into my business. I mean, okay, definitely talk to them. I'm not too jealous. As a matter of fact, I'll say, go get yourself some Bose Hot Box. I'm not trying to podcast, hijack your commercials here, but this stuff is ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, you got yours too, man. That is a bomb. It's the best hot sauce out there. It's bigtimeflavorcode.com. So please go get yourself some. Say Scott sent you. I don't know if that's a thing, but let Bo know.
I love it. Well, while we're shouting people out, we probably should have shouted it a lot earlier, but shout out to one of our big sponsors, Viridian Global, giving us the great gear that the podcasters wear and giving us the awesome gear that fantasy football winners and losers wear. So at Viridian Global on Twitter, viridianglobal.com. I'm sure Will would absolutely be loving this right now as we all show off our gear.
For the people at home that think that's a nice special Dynasty Rewind shirt, that is not a limited edition with sparkles like I thought it was, and like gold plaster on there. That's the regular mat that comes over with everybody.
That is special. I'm just glowing, glistening, ladies and gentlemen.
Just go buy yourself a green screen and sit in front of the camera, and then you can have your very own Dynasty Rewind shirt.
Exactly.
I love it. This was awesome. Jim, do you have any last questions, any follow-up questions before we wrap this up?
No, I have no follow-up questions today. This has been fantastic. I've learned a lot. One of the best things that I found very interesting and useful was the rostership ownership, and finding out that, head-to-head, that don't mean shit. So fuck it. Let's go at it and really only care about it for GPP plays.
Yeah. No, very cool. Thank you guys for having me on. And I would love to be able to, do this again and during the season talk DFS and be able to kind of, I do content then too. So let's try to, cross-pollinate, as they say in the DFS or fantasy world. Love to have you guys do a show with me and, maybe do a little tournament for your listeners. It'd be really great. A little $5, $3, whatever, even if it's free and there's a prize given away at the end, whatever. It's just fun to get in and compete with friends and to be able to do content around it and to have fun about it. That's what I'm for. I don't care about winning $1 million. I mean, I'd love to do that so I could get my girls some stuff that they want, like a she shed and like a tree house and like a bigger house, all those things they want. I don't care. I'm building my wife a deck right now. The last month of my life has been the never-ending deck over here at the Simpson family. And we better not move, because if we do, the deck better be like worth $1 million, because like my
cost of lumber probably is.
Well, we use Timber Tech and Trex, so we didn't use that much lumber, which is pretty cool. So thankfully, we didn't have to take out a small home loan to pay for the deck.
Hopefully you made it like detachable where you can just kind of take it apart and throw it in the back of a truck and haul it to the next house. Be like, I ain't going anywhere without my deck. I spent like 2 monthts building this shit.
The strap it on my
houses sell, man. You guys sell with the deck.
I just gotta say, during the summer months, during the time, my wife better just be accepting of some of the things that I am doing, knowing, what, we're not the summer, but the fantasy season, it's a grind. The wives, they really do suffer because there's a lot of attention that's given to football. It's not, if you were dating football or dating my wife, people would be like, you are madly in love with football and you do not love that person as much as you love football. And so it's just true. I date football like all the time. I date my wife like once a week, and she's still like, we don't go out enough. And I'm like, yeah, hold on. I'm getting a trade in this dynasty. I gotta take care of it. You know, so I'm a terrible person is what this story is all about. And I should just let you know you can find me at nimblewnumbers.com and nimblewnumbers on Twitter.
Yeah, no, good time to point that out. And my girlfriend is the same way. It's like, can we go out? And I'm like, oh no, I never get to see the baby, so stay home with the baby. I'm looking at my phone. She said, why are you looking at your phone? I'm just looking at this fantasy league, you know, we're looking at it together. And it's like, she's like, isn't there an off season? I'm like, oh, well, no.
My wife thinks football's 12 months. She goes, they play all year, right? I'm like, you think so? You would totally think so.
Of course they do, honey. Well,
They almost do. They almost do. Though they got the OTAs, the voluntary camps. They got all that stuff. It's not games, but nobody ever said they had to be a game to be year round, right?
No. My wife plays with a bunch of other ladies, and here's the funny thing: it's so great. None of them watch the games. They just have the players on the teams. So the first week last year, my wife goes, "I'm not starting TJ Hawkenhouse today," and I said, nobody's starting TJ Hawkenhouse today. I guarantee you that right now. And then later she goes, Hawkenhouse did great today. I didn't start him. I said, I know. She goes, you told me nobody was starting Hawkenhouse. I said, I did say that because his name is Hawkinson. His name is not Hawkenhouse. So she's like, you're mean. And I said, no, because I tried to tell her when she said Hawken. This is the thing I left out. She said Hawkenhouse. I said TJ Hawkinson. She goes, no, it's Hawkenhouse. I was like, okay. Sure it is, honey. Okay, right. I do this for a fake living. So, come on.
Oh, I love it. That is great.
Man,
this
has been an awesome show, man. I don't think I have laughed this much in forever on a show. That's for sure. This has been awesome.
But listen, I got to follow up and say we will definitely, in season, we look at each week. So it will match perfectly. We can throw in a bit of the DFS stuff. We can throw in a bit of, we like to play a game called Fool's Gold. So that's one that we can definitely do together and base it almost solely on DFS because you're going to be picking who's going to be gold for you and who's going to be Fool's Gold for you on a given week. So, and I love the league, the tournament idea too. Definitely down for that.
Me too.
I'm sure
not for
that
cash prizes though, but I'll give away prizes.
Yeah.
Like these two awesome sand 8x10s of Jonathan Taylor and T. Higgins that we're currently giving away right now for a $10 minimum donation to foodforkidsniagara.ca. Give me a minimum $10 donation. Screenshot that to me. Get yourself in. We're going to run a 100-yard dash next week. Got a few entries in here. Like I said, it's a good cause for a local community that I really, really care about. Feed a bunch of underprivileged kids every week.
Notice that there, I fixed it. I added that extra A just for you.
I did notice.
I was now going to flash that
well,
across
not
the
just
screen.
for me, like for the website and the city name has an extra A, not Niagara.
Yeah. If anyone watched last week, it's Niagara, not Niagara. That extra A, not the hard R, the softer R with the additional A.
Can you send me that link so I can tweet it out and get it going? And I think that's a great thing to think about. And that's one thing I love about fantasy football. It's an opportunity to not just be about yourself. It's to think about other people and to build community. And that's what we're doing here. So I'm really excited that we've got a chance to do this. And, when you get on someone's podcast, like it's a special thing. Like you podcast it with them. It's like, I don't know. It's like when they get older, like, when people die, like in 5,000 years and they talk about us, they'll be like, oh man, did he get to go on his podcast? Oh no, he really didn't get, he wasn't that close. It wasn't podcast friend. He went on something podcast. That was a big deal. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, that close. So
yeah, it's like I knew what his Twitter profile picture looked like, and how he tweeted, the words, his favorite words. But no, I never podcast. It's streamed. It's a live stream and a podcast.
Right, both. Right. Yeah, I never streamed with him. I never had the pleasure. Yeah, right. So, but thanks, guys. Now we've had the pleasure. Don't be strangers. I'll always have a special place in my heart to also want to do it again. So,
I love it,
I appreciate it.
We suck at our shout outs, but shout out to the True North Fantasy Football crew, truenorthffb.com or at True North FFB. You can check out the Twitter content, which I'm almost 95% the exclusive owner of all that content that's going out. And we have a ton of content coming out right now. Jim wrote an article, the king of quarterbacks himself wrote an article about why the 102 might not necessarily be a quarterback that you should take in a super flex league. So definitely an article to check out there, and hit subscribe on YouTube at TNFF Network so you never miss a minute of the content. We already have fully booked 5 nights a week content during the season, including a DFS show on Thursday nights with the Sons of Dynasty. So make sure to check all that content out. And we don't actually have a plan or a guest for next week yet. But when we do, we will put it on Twitter so that you guys can get hyped up. But until then, we will see you next Tuesday.